Okay, so it is that time of the year where we look at our worst movies of the year. This is where we celebrate the bad of the year. Now, 2023 for me has been actually quite a good year for movies. I've really enjoyed majority of the films I have seen. So, you know, it was hard to make this sort of list because I felt like the majority of the movies were pretty strong. So, we're going to get into my list here, and we're going to start off with some honorable mentions. Firstly, The Meg 2, and yes, this is just a silly bonkers movie, but I didn't think it was that funny, and I really thought it was a big drop-off from the first one. So for me, it's an honorable mention. And another honorable mention, Megan, which came out very much at the start of the year, and I totally forgot about this movie, and it was just, I just did not enjoy it. So we're gonna get into my top 10 worst movies. Let's do it. Number 10 is The Marvels. And look, this movie to me, I did not enjoy this movie. I didn't find it funny. I thought it was very dumb throughout the movie, and it was just kind of like, why are we doing this? I feel like there was a good movie here. Don't get me wrong. I feel like, you know, Ms. Marvel was great. I really enjoyed her. But I felt like the whole character development between Monica and Captain Marvel felt very short. Like, it's over within like one sentence, and it's kind of like, bruh, you guys have beef with each other, let's explore that, but it's kind of over instantly, and it takes away from the movie. Now, the villain, oh man, the villain may be the worst villain in the MCU, period. I just don't find her, you know, fun at all. I mean, her whole motivation is dumb because, spoiler alert, when she's trying to take the sun and trying to get it into her world through this wormhole, she's like thinking the sun's automatically going to come back as a ball. No, it's not. Like, it's just dumb, and there's so many inconsistencies throughout the film that just did not work for me. And look, I feel like, dude, when you have talent like Brie Larson and you waste her like this with this terrible script, it's very frustrating because she's so talented. But look, man, I just felt like The Marvels was just kind of, you know, it shows you exactly where the MCU is, because we have only had one strong MCU movie this year. The rest of them, pretty bang average or awful. So for me, number 10 is The Marvels. Number 9 is The Little Mermaid. And before anyone says anything, no, it has nothing to do with Ariel being a different color from white. It has nothing to do with that. My reasons for this movie is, one, we don't need a live action version of every single movie, and I particularly am not fond of this one because the musical numbers for me, some of them were flat. Under the Sea, for instance, I felt like that just did not give me the vibes to jump out of my seat and jump around and dance. Just didn't give me that. Now, the lead, I felt like Bailey, she's not ready to lead a film, in my opinion. I just felt like she was kind of wooden throughout this film, and it really played in the chemistry part for me to be able to believe that Eric was going to fall in love with Ariel. It just didn't feel authentic, and it didn't feel right. I don't know why. It's just because she just isn't ready to lead a film, in my opinion. And like, dude, later on, I've seen this before with actors and actresses who weren't ready to lead a film. We've seen it with Dave Bautista. We've seen it with John Cena. They weren't ready to do it, and you can tell. But as they continued to progress, becoming side characters and that, then they become ready to lead their film. And I don't think she was ready to lead a film of this caliber just yet. And it came along in the performance. The emotion wasn't there for me for her character. And it was kind of like, yeah, just very wooden for me. And that played with that chemistry that just, I didn't feel at all. Now, another thing, Melissa McCarthy, I didn't like her. I just didn't like her in this movie. It just didn't work for me. And there's other elements in this movie that didn't work for me. But overall, I didn't enjoy this one as much. So, for me, number 9, The Little Mermaid. Number 8 is Silent Night. Now, I was really excited for this because we had Violent Night, which I absolutely loved. We've had Fat Man, which I absolutely loved as well. Christmas movies with a John Wick sort of style. And, you know, you get John Woo to come back and do this. And I'm like, okay, potential. Could this be good? It was so bad, in my opinion. Oh my word, this was awful. Like, you try to tell this really serious story with someone losing their kid, which, I mean, wow, that is very serious and very, like, deep. And you want to, you know, follow that story. But then it's, like, overshadowed by horrible action, no suspense, dragged out story that is just pacing all over the place, very, very slow for an action movie that's supposed to be like 90 minutes long. And it takes so long to get to the actual action. And when you get to the action, it's so anticlimactic. And it's like, come on, man. I mean, there was one creative kill in here. Outside that, it felt very generic. And the dialogue, there was no dialogue, which I don't mind, man, because I don't mind. Because in my top 10 best movies, there is a movie in there with no dialogue. So I don't care if there's dialogue or not. But when you don't have dialogue, you need to convey this emotion. And there is no emotion in this movie at all. They try to get you there. It's like, dude, do you want to make a great action movie? A fun action movie? Or do you want to make this deep story? And it just became a complete mess. So for me, number 8, Silent Night. Number 7, Thanksgiving. I was excited for this, man. I was really excited. But I tell you what, this was just absolutely awful. From the characters, man. The characters are so annoying. You don't root for them. You want them to die. It's so like, why? Why do we have to make these teenage characters that are so unbearable when they're supposed to be the people that you want to root for and not die? I'm rooting for the killer at this point. I'm like, just kill these people. I don't care about them. So you have that. Then you have the story itself, which was like, didn't work for me at all. I was just kind of like, okay. Because the big twist at the end doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. Because how can this person be in the 2 different places at the same time? It just didn't add up. I'm sitting there like, okay, that's your twist. That's the best you could have come up with. Okay, whatever then. I thought the kills were lackluster as well. There wasn't really anything that made me go, oh, damn, that is such a sick kill. Or, oh, that was awful. The only one I can think of is when she gets stabbed in the ears. That's it. Outside of that, there's no substance in this film. There is just nothing. It's not even enjoyable. I was sitting there most of the time just like, oh, this is boring. It just didn't work for me. And I know a lot of people love this movie, so that's awesome that it worked for you guys. But for me, Eli Roth just did not nail this one for me. And unfortunately, it is number 7 for me. Number 6 is Fast 10. And oh my word, what is this movie? This movie is just not even Fast and Furious at this point. It's just like a complete and utter jumble of a mess. Talk about, Dom becoming a superhero, because that's what he is. He taps into the speed force, man. And like, when everything's in slow-mo, he's moving like normal pace. It's like, what's going on? But it's so bonkers ridiculous that none of this makes any sense. Like, there's Fast 9, which jumped the shark. And you're like, whoa, okay. You're getting a bit ahead of yourself here. You're jumping it a bit too much. And then this one just goes, hey, you know what we should do? We should dial it up a notch and go even higher. And they do. And it's just, oh my. This was just one of the most frustrating, dumbest things to ever come out. And then, dude, you get the freaking ending. Bruh, she fell out of a plane and she's still alive. Like, at this point, what is this franchise about? And it's just horrible, man. The dialogue's horrible. The only good thing of this movie is Jason Momoa. He's the only saving grace. His performance alone is enough to get you to come and watch this movie. That's it. Outside of that, it's ridiculous. Like, the car's spinning like this, and Dom's kids jumping from one car to another car. Like, what is going on? Like, what is going on? How do you sit there and go, this is going to be great? But hey, we know there's a lot of stuff that happened behind the scenes with the director, Justin Lin, leaving, and you can tell. And it's an absolute complete mess. And I'm so glad I'm not going to ever watch it again. So for me, Fast 10 comes in here. Number 5 is The Nun 2. And look, it's an improvement on the original Nun, but again, it still falls very much flat. Now, there are little bits that I was like, okay, we're starting to cook here. But the problem is, it takes so long. The pacing is awful in this movie. It takes so long. 1 minute you're focusing on these people going on this quest to figure out what's going on. And then you turn into the second half, this insane bonkers, out of this world, superhero finale sort of thing. And I'm sitting there like, bro, what's going on here? This is the Nun. This ain't the Marvels with DC. What's going on here? Now, there is one scene that I really enjoyed in this movie, and that was the goat scene. That goat scene is freaking awesome. That is the best thing about this. But again, it's not scary. It relies too much on jump scares. Like, come on, be a bit nuanced. Give us a bit more than just, hey, jump scare at you, which is kind of annoying. Performances, they were okay. But overall, The Nun 2 just fell flat for me again. So, comes in at number 5. Number 4 is Mafia Mama. And this is one of the most unfunny comedies out there. When you get someone like Toni Collette to come in, I'm excited. I'm like, dude, Toni Collette's in here. Let's go. Should be good. And this comedy just turns into one of the most unfunniest things I have ever watched. I did not laugh a single time throughout this. It's just messy all over the place, man. Scene after scene. It's just like, what's going on? None of this actually is cohesive in any way when you're telling this story. The characters themselves aren't interesting. You don't care for them. And you're supposed to build up this big civil war that's brewing between these two, clans, mafia, sort of people. And it's kind of so anticlimactic. And it's just, this was a real tough time to get through. And, it's just, again, a wasted talent. Like, how do you get someone like Toni Collette to come in and you give her this script and it's just awful? Like, the delivery of the lines just didn't land. The jokes themselves, awful. And it's just, the twist is like, ugh, disgusting. Horrible. So, for me, number 4, Mafia Mama. Number 3 is Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. And, oh my word, what on earth was this? Who thought it would be a good idea to get Winnie the Pooh and turn him into a horror movie? I thought it was a good idea until I saw it. And, oh my word, this is awful. It's really bad. Like, okay. The only reason why it's not number 1 or 2 is because some of the kills are kind of insane. And I'm like, okay, that's a bit of a saving grace. But outside of that, bruh, this was a complete dumpster fire. You're trying to give these deep stories to these characters. And then you're throwing in Winnie the Pooh. And they're like cannibals. And they're like trying to eat people and stuff like that. And it's just... the dialogue's awful. I was just like, what is going on? I thought it was a good idea. Then I watched the movie. And I thought to myself, there's no way we get a second one. Well, guess what? We're getting a second one. We're getting a second one. So that's happening. But I'll be there to watch it because, why not? Can't be any worse than the first one. Surely it can't. But it's so bad. It is so bad. There's no suspense. There's just nothing. There's just some cool kills. That's it. So for me, number 3, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Number 2 is The Exorcist Believer. And oh my god, believe me when I say this. Lifeless. This is awful. There is not a single redeeming quality about this film. It is awful from start to finish. It's slow. It's paced awfully. The characters you don't care about at all. Some of the characters come off and you're like, bruh, what is going on with this character? Why is this? They treat their legacy characters with disrespect in this movie as well. And dude, the story itself was so boring. I'm sitting there like, am I supposed to be scared? Because I'm laughing at this film. I'm laughing at this horror film. Instead of being scared and, on the edge of my seat, I'm laughing at it. So for me, man, it's just... and I know I'm not alone. I know a lot of people didn't like this movie, and there's reason for that. It just... I just don't understand how you do this. It's a franchise that just... they brought back for the sake of it. It really did, and they just fumbled it even more. So, for me, number 2, The Exorcist Believer. But number 1 is Expendables 4. Oh my word, I was actually excited for this movie because I actually enjoyed the first 3 Expendables. Like, 3's not that good. I get that. 2, I really enjoyed. 1, I enjoyed as well. But, bro, everything that Expendables was, they gutted out of this movie to give us this awful film. The dialogue is awful. The visual effects are awful. The movie's not even... dude, how are you making a movie and removing your star out of the movie for the whole entire movie and then replacing him with someone else? I don't get it. Like Barney, they faked death Barney. It was the most predictable thing in the world. Like when he wasn't there, oh, guess who's coming back to save them all? And it doesn't make any sense because how could he time it perfectly for all this to happen? He's sitting there just coincidentally knowing when all these events are coming. Like he's seeing into the future. It's dumb. It doesn't make any sense. The action, Jason Statham's great. I love Jason Statham, and he was great in it. And he did his best to carry this film on his shoulders because it's all about Christmas. That's all it's about. It's about him. The rest of them are like non-existent, which is annoying. Megan Fox can't act. When are people going to realize that? She's awful in this movie. Again, they try to push her into a focal point of this movie, and it's just awful. It's just so hard to watch. And dude, Expendables 4, biggest disappointment of the year, and all you had to do was make a fun action movie with the Expendables. That's all I was asking. I wasn't asking for top notch. I was just asking for a fun action movie, and that's not what this movie is. The villains are predictable and boring, and I mean, just it's frustrating. So number 1, the worst movie of 2023, Expendables 4. Now there you have it. That is my list. Let me know yours down in the comment section below. Which ones were your worst? Let's celebrate the bad. Smash it down there. Smash that like button. Click subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video. Until then, stay safe and peace out.